Well, we know the economy is bad all over the country. In some areas, it's worse. State of Washington out in the West Coast is having some huge problems out there. Their unemployment rate, where the rest of the nation's down around 8% or less, is about 8.5%, one of the highest rates in the country. What is really startling is the young people who cannot find jobs. 35% of teenagers and young people in the state of Washington are unemployed, actively seeking work, but can't find any work out there in Washington. And it's a real problem. A lot of students would like to get part-time jobs, so they say, and are trying to find some work. So no jobs out there, right? Well, there are some jobs out there. They're in the fruit business, apples particularly. Apple pickers out there make a pretty decent living. And there's a huge shortage. They need thousands of apple pickers out there. Apple growers are saying they may lose as much as 30% of their crop this year because it's a wonderful crop, it's a bountiful crop, one of the best they've ever had in its history, but they can't get the pickers to pick the fruit. The reason they say is because of the crackdown on illegal immigration, that all these illegals come in or they don't have proof of their legality. Apple pickers turn their heads and they go ahead and pick all the fruit. And they make pretty good money. You can apparently pick about a bin of apples an hour, so I'm told. Got a daughter that lives out there in Washington. $28 a bin is what you make. $28 a bin. Now that's for 1 hour's work. You multiply that out. What does that come out to be? I don't have a calculator here, but something like if you worked regularly, over $4,000 a month, about $52,000 a year you'd make if you picked apples every day. Now it's seasonal work, and I know that. But if you're a teenager looking for work, and there are a number of smaller colleges, big universities in South Washington, those kids have a great way of making money. They don't want to do that, though. A large number of kids in Washington, and in other states, quite frankly, not only get direct tuition waivers, like in my state of Louisiana, we have a program called the Taylor Plan. You get free tuition if you have a 2.5 average when you get out of high school. As long as you maintain that average, you can get free tuition for up to 6 years. I never understood that 6-year thing, by the way. When I went to school, it was somewhat of an embarrassment if you didn't get out after 4 years. I know one year when I was at the University of North Carolina, I had to drop a course, and I think I got sick and dropped a course. Then I'm 3 hours short of graduating in 4 years. I went to summer school, besides working all summer, just to pick up that 3 hours because I wanted to graduate in 4 years. You know, you didn't want to have that stigma. Now, only 65% of kids in this country in college graduate in 6 years. And then you come into the finances, they get that grant. You got the Pell Grants, which are both grants and loans the federal government backs up. Then a lot of students are on food stamps. States allow students to get food stamps. So you got food stamps, the Pell Grant, you got the tuition waiver. And so who wants to work, right? 35% unemployment in the state of Washington. Thousands of pickers needed, making up to $52,000 a year. You don't make all that, but still, if you're making $1,000, $1,200 a week, do that for a month or so and get the money to get yourself through school. But they can't find the pickers for the fruit. And that's indicative of what's happening throughout the country. Georgia's a big fruit-picking state. They have a lack of workers out there. Look, I'm not proud in terms of what I have to do to make a living to get myself through school. My folks couldn't help me much when I went through college and law school, and I had all kinds of jobs. And most of you folks out there are in the same boat. You know what I'm talking about. When I was in law school, I was a Little League football coach and basketball coach. I was the night manager of kind of a flea bag hotel down in New Orleans just off Bourbon Street. I sat there all night long, studied most of the night till I fell asleep laying my head on the desk down there. I also played my banjo. Did you know I played the banjo? I played my banjo at a place called Your Father's Mustache on Bourbon Street over my time in law school down there to pay the bills. I took all kinds of odd jobs. I picked pecans. I picked bags of pecans. You did it on a split share. You got your bag and took them and sold them. And I picked a lot of pecans in my year. So I'm not patting myself on the back. Many of you listening to me out there did the very same thing. it just is concerning to me that our kids are going on food stamps. They're getting all these grants. They're getting these welfare benefits that you and I are paying for. The fruit rots in the field because there's nobody out there to pick it. That's not right. That's not right. It just shows you this entitlement society we live in today. And I tend to be a little bit more moderate. I want to help those in need, but I also want to help those who help themselves. That's my thoughts. Now, how about them apples? You can chew on it, and I'll be right back.